All right, I'm gonna go ahead and mute you out. Good evening, good evening. Just let a few more people get in here. Let Facebook do its algorithm situation. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening. All right. All right, good evening, good evening. Good evening, good people. Welcome to another 203K Tuesday. I am your host, Aaron, the house person. This is the place where you can learn everything you do not know about the 203K loan and how you can use that information to create, build, and sustain generational wealth. So today we're going to be interviewing Rockstar Loan Officer in the DC metropolitan area, Baltimore and DC metropolitan area. But before we bring him in, I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about the team, right? When you're going through this process, and that's exactly what it is, right? The process, right? As you're going through it, or even before you go through it, you want to put together a team that is going to help you meet your goals. And you may have to speak to a few different people, in order to make sure you have the right people on your team. All right. So today we're going to be talking to one of the members of your would-be team, the loan officer. Okay. We're going to bring him in, and we're going to do what would be basically a mock interview. Well, this will be a real interview, right? But we're going to do an interview. You get to see kind of how that process will go. And then we're just going to have a general conversation about 203Ks and get his perspective about what he's seeing here in the market. Okay. So give me a second. Let me get him in here. All right. Let's see here. Lewis. There he is. All right. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. All right. All right. So we have tonight, we are honored to have with us tonight Mr. Lewis Hibbs. I said that right?
You did.
No, yeah, Mr. Lewis Hibbs is with us tonight. He is a Rockstar loan officer. Sorry. Yes, he's a Rockstar loan officer with Royal Treatment Renovation Loans. Had to make sure I had the name correctly. So, Lewis, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. It's going to be a good time tonight.
Okay, I'm excited about it. So the typical intro will normally have a little more information, and things of that nature. But because of the interview aspect of what we're doing, some of those questions will be answered throughout that process. So, I say let's just hop right into the questions, and then from there we will kind of fill in the gaps of, more stuff about you and things of that nature. Fair enough?
Great. That's great.
All right. So, guys, as you go through the process, right? Very first question you want to ask: do you know the 203K process, and have you closed this loan before?
So I do know the process very well, and I've closed a lot of these loans. And I think that it became a niche for me because I have some background in construction. I knew that side of it. But when you talk about the generational wealth, and if this is one of your later questions, you can just delete it. I think that what people don't always see when you have equity, that it's really their wealth and their cash. And so many of the loans that we do, the people, buy a house for 200, they put 50 into it, and the house appraises for 300, and they don't really feel like they have $50,000 in cash, but technically they have $50,000 in equity in their house. And so it's exciting to watch people of any age purchase a home, go through the process, and then at the end, knowing they're sitting on a handful of cash that they can either put into their next property, save, borrow to do something else, but they have that equity. And to me, that's a big part of why I enjoy doing what I do so much.
Okay. All right. All right. Next question, which no, we didn't talk about. So how long have you been in the business and originating 203K loans?
So I got in the business in 98. And for the first 8 to 10 years, I was doing construction loans and a lot of stuff for builders. And then when that dried up, when the meltdown happened, or the correction, whatever you want to call it, I started focusing on renovation loans because there were so many foreclosures and short sales that the houses needed work. So I switched my niche to the renovation loans. So I've been focusing on them for a little over 10 years.
Okay. Okay. So right around when the market crashed, that's
Yeah.
when you pivoted from the actual construction side to more so originating loans on the construction side,
Right.
203K. Okay. Okay. Good. Do you have any additional credentials or certifications? And I guess maybe because of the construction, that's definitely some credentials.
So I used to have my home improvement license. I don't carry it anymore. So that gives me the strength on the construction side of helping people with what needs to be done. I've worked for different companies throughout my career, and most of them made us take some type of certification to originate them because they didn't want us going out on the streets not knowing what we were doing. But if a client calls me, as I walk through the process with them and answer their questions, at the end, they're almost always like, man, you like have this down, because I can just, if you ask me, can we do a septic? If you ask me about contingencies, any of the questions that come up, because I do these, I know the answers to them. And so it just makes people feel comfortable after the conversation. But there's no like special certification or certificate I have, saying I'm a renovation loan person.
Okay. Okay. But you have, of course, the construction background, and then the classes that you said they kind of mandated that you guys would take
Yes.
in order to get up to speed. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. What is your NMLS number?
Oh boy, that's a hard question. I'm pretty sure it's 207092, but I have to look at my email because it's got so many repetitive numbers that sometimes I don't remember what it is. No, 270092. I'm sorry.
270092.
092.
Okay, so you had the right numbers. Just
you didn't tell me you're going to ask me stuff I didn't know.
07. So for those who don't know, what exactly does NMLS stand for?
It's the National Mortgage Licensing System. And there's federal parts of your education, plus there's specific state parts. So I'm licensed in Maryland and DC. You use the same NMLS number for both states, or, for the state and the district. You use the same NMLS number. When you go on their website, a consumer can go on there and see what licenses I have and where I've worked and how long I've been licensed. But when I first got in the business, you didn't have to have a license. So anyway, it's a way they monitor us to make sure that we're doing the right things. If there's any complaints against us, we go through fingerprints and background checks, and we have 10 or 12 hours of continuing ed every year that we have to do. So after this started right around the time of the meltdown where they're like, okay, wait a minute, we got to sort of rein everybody in and see what's going on here. And we just can't have everybody, saying they're a loan officer.
Okay. And folks, as far as the meltdown he's referring to is in 2008 when the real estate bubble burst, the bottom fell out, the market crashed. So a lot of changes happened during that time or after that time. And okay, all right. So
I always forget there's young people that didn't live through that, which they're blessed that they didn't, but I always forget that. I don't think that, like, hey, they may not even know what I'm talking about.
Right. It's okay. Okay, so, and it could be a rough estimate, but how many 203K loans would you say that, you've closed over time? And I know this may be a little, tough question to answer, but, and what is roughly your average time? So how many would you say you've closed and what would you say the rough average time is? And I know that varies.
To get it to closing?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I do in between 1 and 3 a month because it's a specialized loan. Like a regular loan officer has to do 8, 10, 12 deals a month. But because of the moving parts on this, you really can't do as many. So I do in between 1 and 3 a month. For December, I actually have 4 going for December. And, one's a short sale, one's a foreclosure. And one is a foreclosure that the guy got with the wrong lender and then came to me at the end to try to get it all nice and pretty and fixed up. So it depends on the months and what's going on. And I pre-approved a couple people that are out hunting for houses now. So, but I would say in between 1 and 3 a month is typically what I do. And we like to have 45 to 60 days for the whole process. And when I say the whole process, I'm saying from the time you say, this is the house I want and write a contract to your closing date. And, a lot of people try to shorten that up and, we got to rush. And, you don't really get anything by trying to rush it. We need that amount of time to make everything go. And it reduces everybody's stress by getting that amount of time up front.
Okay. All right. Does your company have a dedicated department for 203K or any dedicated processes to kind of help those files get pushed through?
Yeah, we actually we have a whole division, and my boss runs it for the country. And so, but we have processors that work on the 203K loans. We have underwriters that only underwrite 203K loans. And then we also have an in-house guy in Frederick, Maryland. His name's Chico, and he handles all the contractor stuff. So once we say we have a deal, he gets helps the contractor fill out their paperwork. He coordinates everything from the contractor and appraisal end to make sure everything's right. All the forms are correct. We have the right insurance. We have the references and all that. He's a huge help because it keeps me out of that area of it. And it really makes our loans go much smoother. And he's been doing this with Lee a long time. My boss's name is Lee. He's been doing it with Lee a long time, and they're a team. And it's really worked out well having him on working with me as well.
Okay. So Chico is helping the process move right along. All right. Let's see. Oh, so what was the most complicated 203K loan that you've done?
Most complicated.
And that could be from the standpoint of your side with the paperwork and, handling all the financials, or it could be from the side of just that entire process of, the renovation.
So I think the most complicated one is one I'm working on now. And the reason is the borrower did a 203K on a house, and he found another house that was a better opportunity, and he's doing a 203K on that house, and we're refinancing the other house into an investment property simultaneously with doing the new 203K.
Okay, so I guess you're not too busy right now.
And the craziest thing is, we got the refinance in first, but they didn't assign it to an underwriter that does renovation loans. So we have 2 different underwriters we're dealing with because the one doesn't do renovation loans. So it's a lot of moving parts. Both appraisals are in, everything's going forward, contractor, work right up, everything's done. So it's very much on its way, but I don't recommend doing that if you can avoid it.
Okay. So just a little bit of juggling going on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the next question you've answered actually a couple of times, but are you currently working on any 203K loans? But I think you said you have four. You say four this month?
Four for December, and I've got 2 or 3 people who I've talked to, gone through how it all works with them, pulled their credit, gotten their pay stubs, and they're out shopping for houses now.
Cool. And folks, if you see me looking down a lot, that's because I'm actually taking notes. So that's number one. Before you start any interview process, have your pen or pencil, something to write on, and take those copious notes. All right. All right. So next question is, who are the 203K consultants that that you've seen out in the field in the last year or two? Like, who would you say? And yeah, who would you say will be the top 3 if you would have any that maybe?
So we learned early on that we need to pick our consultant.
Mm-hmm.
So unless the client comes to me with a consultant already, then I'm going to pick the consultant, and I use Richard Livingston.
Okay.
And Richard Livingston's in Annapolis. He has his home improvement license, although he doesn't do home improvement.
Mm-hmm.
He has his home inspector's license, and he's a HUD consultant.
Wow. Okay.
Typically, he does if somebody calls me and says, hey, I have this house under contract, I will tell them to use Richard for their home inspection and their HUD consulting, because that way, when he goes to do the home inspection, he can do the HUD consulting at the same time. Mm-hmm. And he can let the clients know, hey, this could be an issue or this could be a deal breaker, because to have a home inspector come in, say what's wrong, and then the HUD consultant come in and try to marry that, it creates another level that we don't always need. So a lot of the HUD consultants are home inspectors, but Richard Livingston is the person that I use out of Annapolis, and he travels, he does DC, and he does all over Maryland, and he does a really good job.
So you said he's the MHIC, a HUD consultant, and there was a third one in there as well.
Home inspector. You have to have a license to be a home inspector now. At least in Maryland. I don't know about DC. In Maryland, you have to have a license to be a home inspector.
Okay.
So write in your notes to check to see if you do in DC.
pretty well rounded. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And the last question of the 10, which I know based off of the 1 to 3 that you typically do, the question is, do you have any past or current 203K clients that I'd be able to reach out to and just talk to them about their experiences and their process?
I do. And if you go on my Facebook page, I used to shoot videos of interviewing some of them, but I do have clients that I can give you that I'm currently working with, that I've already closed loans for. And some of them, that we've done previously, they've come back to me and refinanced 2 or 3 times as the rates have gotten better. But I do have plenty of references. And I also have realtor references, because a lot of times the homeowner or the purchaser, the buyer, the borrower, the client, whatever we're going to call them, is more excited about this than the real estate agent is. So sometimes it's nice to let the realtor know that, hey, call this realtor, they'll tell you that I'm going to get this thing to closing, or call this realtor, they'll talk to you about my service, because that makes the real estate agent feel more comfortable. And one of the things, of course, about working with you is you understand the process, and if everybody does their job, we're going to close and the people are going to get their house.
Very true. Very true. Okay. So real quick segue, folks. So that pretty much is the 10 questions. Based off of the responses, at that point, you can determine if you want to move forward in the process with this particular person. And I would say, based off of what I heard here, Lewis definitely has a lot of accolades. As far as the construction space in general, that knowledge is priceless. Having someone who has been on both sides of the fence is absolutely something, again, that is priceless. I can't even think of another word that's better than priceless, but that's exactly what it is, because as you maneuver through this process, you're going to hit some road bumps. And if you're working with someone who's experienced enough where they've seen these things before, they can get you around those road bumps, get you over them, or go through them if you have to. So it's very critical that you interview the members of your team prior to bringing them on to your team. So, Lewis, as far as the market today, so as we know, we're dealing with this pandemic, and a lot of lending institutions have kind of dried up. So some folks have said they can't get a 203K. People aren't doing 203Ks right now. Would you be one of those folks, or, well, I guess not, because you're doing 1 to 3 right now. So, but I still got to ask you the question: would you be one of those folks, or can you do one right now?
So what happened in probably March or April is that the extra steps for COVID employment verification kicked in for almost all the lenders.
Okay.
And so, we get a written verification of employment, we get pay stubs from you, we call your HR department, and then the day before closing, we're calling again to see if you still have a job. So if you're lending excuse me, if you're lending somebody money to renovate a house, and I don't know how much time we have, I'll try not to make this too long of an example, but
you're good. Go ahead.
Okay. So if you buy a house for $200,000 and you're going to put a new kitchen in it, and the first thing you do is take that $200,000 house and rip the kitchen out, but your house isn't worth $200,000 anymore because it doesn't have a kitchen. So if you marry that to, oh, you lost your job because you got laid off from COVID, then the bank has a real problem, because now you don't have a job. We have a house that's not worth what we even started, and there may not be a chance we get the work finished. So a lot of lenders said, we're not taking the risk on a renovation loan right now with what's going on with COVID. Other lenders put overlays on that prohibited people from doing them. And so we never stopped doing them. I was never out of the renovation business. I did have some tougher things to go through. But one of the things that we're doing now, like I'm doing one right now for 2 servers, restaurant workers, managers, and so they've been working the whole time, but we have a department where we can send their verifications of employment and their pay stubs, and they'll tell us how to document the income so that the loan's approved, and then the underwriter will take that documentation.
Okay.
If you're self-employed, they've really made it tough, because in addition to the 2 years of tax returns, they also want a profit and loss that you would write up. And then they want to see your business bank statements to see if the money is coming in the way it shows on your profit and loss. So I did a loan for a self-employed attorney, and she gave us her profit and loss, and she gave us her bank statements to show that the money was continuing to come in. So there is still the ability to get 2 or 3K loans. There's limited resource, which makes the people that are doing them a little busier, but they are still out there, and there are companies doing them. And depending on your work situation, which I talk to people about that up front, what's your work situation? Is your job going to end, and what's happening, and where do you work? Then we figure out how we're going to do it best from there. Long answer.
Okay. All right. Good deal. Good deal. So right now, well, your particular process. So somebody wants to get started with this process, and they reach out to you kind of quickly. What would that look like for them?
So I go over sort of how it works so they understand. It's going to be a little more work for them with selecting stuff and finding a contractor and figuring out, what they want to do. We would do a credit pull, get pay stubs, W-2s. If there's any questions on the income, we would send it to our department that calculates the income. If we have any questions about overtime or bonuses and stuff like that. And then I would give them a number that they're pre-approved for, but also make sure they're comfortable with that payment. Because it used to be, tell me the max, that's what I'm buying. And now people are much more conservative, and they're like, this is what I want my payment to be. Tell me how much house I can buy.
Gotcha.
So then once we do that, I tell them start looking at houses. And I always tell them to send me the listings because the taxes are all over the place, the property taxes, and that becomes part of their payments. I always tell them to send me a listing. Don't fall in love with anything until I tell them to fall in love. And then I'll calculate their payment on that property with an estimated amount of repairs and the taxes. And then if they're like, yeah, we want to move forward, then I would walk through that property with them, help them establish a budget and see if it makes sense. And then that's where the importance of you comes in, because I want to know what that neighborhood sells for fixed up, because you don't build instant equity and generational wealth by overpaying for a property, that doesn't make sense. If you're going to pay retail, go buy a house that's fixed up is my view. If you want to pay wholesale and fix it up and start with equity, then we do the renovation loan.
Okay. I want to touch on one of the things you said just now. You said, and I come out and take a look at it. So are you saying that you come out and physically walk through the property?
Oh yeah.
Wow. Huh. Okay. You
don't it really saves. So it takes some time to do it, but it saves so much time because I know what I'm dealing with and what the hiccups are going to be.
Okay. Okay. And again, I guess that goes back to your previous experience prior to doing the actual 2 or 3K loans and things of that nature.
But also knowing what the minimum standards are that HUD requires and home style requires for the conventional renovation loan, knowing what the minimum standards are is important. And then also, like we're doing one now where I looked at this house with 3 different clients, and the third client finally ended up getting the house. But the very first time we met, I'm like, okay, you have to put the carpet down. Well, why do I need carpet? I said, because it's required to have finished floors. You need to have a stove. So he knew from upfront what was going to be required. So when the consultant came out to do the home inspection, all other things, the consultant said the same things that I said. Actually, the house tested for radon, so we have to put a radon mitigation system in addition. But so now they sort of know what's going on, and they're not shocked by the HUD consultant all of a sudden being the first one that told them this is what you have to do, because I already told them this is what you have to do. It just keeps people at ease, makes the process go a little smoother.
Okay, so giving people enough information, making sure that they know as much as possible, because it's going to be impossible to impart all of the years of knowledge you have in a short period of time to someone, but just making sure you kind of hold their hand and guiding them throughout the entire process, and having them hear things over and over from multiple sources who aren't necessarily attached, but telling them the same good information is just something that kind of, a stress reliever, a woo-saw moment for the folks who are going through this process, for most of them, their first time.
Right. And hopefully I convey to people that I'm there to help them. There's no such thing as a dumb question. And I've gotten in the habit as I've aged of when I'm finished saying, do you have any questions? Mm-hmm. Because that gives them a chance to think, well, what should I be asking you? I'm like, I don't know. But if I talk too fast or something didn't make sense, always feel free. You can call me or text me to get your questions answered, because the best thing is when we go to closing and everybody knew everything, there's no surprises, and it sort of happened as they expected. That's the best thing for everybody.
Okay. All right. Well, Lewis, we are up against it. That half an hour kind of flew by. I definitely want to appreciate you coming on to the show today, coming on to 203K Tuesday, and imparting the information that you gave to us. For those who are interested and want to get the process started and get it started with you, how can they reach out to you?
They can call me on my cell phone, which you're supposed to have it typed along the bottom like they do on TV. 443-695-8513. And just call me on my cell phone or text me, and we can have a conversation. I'm happy to help you.
Say that one more time for us.
443-695-8513.
This is what you people should be doing. 443.
You know my phone number.
And your Facebook page, how can they find your social media?
I have a page under my name, and then I have a page under Royal Treatment Renovation Loans.
Okay, so Lewis Hibbs, LEWIS HIBBS.
Correct. Or Royal Treatment Renovation Loans.
Right, gotcha. Okay, all right. So there you have it today, folks. Another 203K Tuesday in the books. Again, we'd like to thank our guest, Mr. Lewis Hibbs, today for bringing all the great information. He gave his contact information, so if you guys are interested in getting started or if you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to give Lewis a call. You can also give us a call here with the 203K Done Your Way program at 844-YES-203K. You could also send an email at info@203kdoneyourway.com for any questions that you may have. That's all we have for you tonight. We appreciate you stopping by, taking a look, and we'll see you next week for 203K Tuesday. Thank you, Lewis.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. See you soon. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and ring that bell. Thanks for watching.